Hi, welcome. It's time for a town hall with me, a presidential candidate, a write-in candidate for president, Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki. But you don't have to write all of that in. You can just write in Susan Buchser. So it's Susan, and Buchser is Buchs like Susan ER. Welcome. I need to give you a campaign update, and so what can I say? I'm in the middle of the country. I'm in Missouri, heading towards California, and then I'm going to go north and visit some of the northern states above California, and then start heading back. But apparently I still have a day in front of me of driving. So that it means a couple of days. I can't do everything all at one time, and I got business to take care of and other things. So anyway, I'm on my way to the Pacific Coast. At this point, I've been to every state except for Alaska. And I'm sorry, I really wanted to get to Alaska this year, but it's not gonna happen. Although I suppose what I could do is when I go to Switzerland, I could somehow, it's a little bit in the opposite direction, but I could swing by, but it'll be after the election. But anyways, so I have been going around, driving around to all the different states and seeing each and every state, spending usually 1 to 2 nights in each state to get a real feel for the state and what's going on. And Illinois, hey, down in the very southern area, I have to admit the roads were really bad. I mean, I know a lot of money goes to Chicago, but you gotta keep the roads nice everywhere, not just in Chicago. So, that was a little disappointing. I never saw such big potholes in my life. So we need to work on that. Okay, it's not acceptable. U.S. citizens deserve better. They deserve roads that are flat with very little potholes. No pothole should be around longer than a month. Any state that allows a pothole to continue longer than a month should be ashamed of themselves. And, I'm going to give the power to the people here. Actually, you citizens, you need to contact your state highway department. You call them up. They have a phone number, and you say, hey, this street needs this pothole fixed. And then they should come out and fix it. Now, I would like the police to be doing this too, but, they're patrolling the streets anyways. The police should be informing their departments that the brush needs to be cut back, because driving across the country, some of the signs are behind, trees and bushes, and you can't read them. So police should be informing about all of this. I don't know who to call about the signs. Maybe it's also the highway patrol people, the highway department of your state or city. But call and find out. And police, if you're listening, you should be calling and finding out who you should be telling these things to. If you see a pothole too, you should report it so that it can get fixed. This is part of the problem. Nobody knows who's supposed to do what. So let's just all start doing it, and then the job will get done. So report potholes, report signs that are damaged or missing, or dangerous intersections that are not working the way they're supposed to, or signs that are behind trees and bushes and things that nobody can see anymore. Report those things, please, to your state, your town, whoever needs to know, and get people working on it. There's no reason why a police officer or somebody else can't just get out of their vehicle and go over with a little chainsaw or something and cut down the branch that's blocking the view of a stop sign, for instance. So, this is important. And like I said, in Illinois, there were huge potholes in this one area. There were gravel roads down by the end of a railroad area, and they need to be repaired. They don't look like they just happened. So get on this. This is not fair. These are U.S. citizens, especially these are moms with kids. Moms with kids in the cars who are just trying to do their job, probably in between like 5 other jobs that they have just to make ends meet. So, let's take it easy on moms and kids. Let's help them rather than hurt them. So get out there and get those potholes fixed up. And you watchers, you listeners, please go out or call up your local highway department and you tell them you need to come and fix this pothole. Okay? So that's what I'm discovering. What I don't want to do, I'm trying not to go around and really say, well, this needs fixed up, or this one needs fixed up, or this house is not good, or whatever. We all have our wants and our likes, and we might have reasons why we just want to live simply, and then other people want to live not so simply, with really fancy things. So, it is part of our freedom to live the way we want. But we have to give people the resources if they want to live in a different way than how they are. If they want to live in a nicer home or something like that, we also need to give them support to reach their goals. We only have, each of us, we just have our one lives to live. So, it's not fair to subjugate some people to being restricted and other people have everything. This is not, in my opinion, fair or working. So what I want to organize is like a community center where people can go in and say, hey, I have a roof that's leaky, I need help, and then they get the help that they want. So this is one of the things that I want to do. We're coming up on our 250th anniversary of our country, and I would like to introduce that concept like a community center where people then get help for things that they can't afford maybe, or things that need to be fixed for health-wise or safety-wise, and maybe they don't have the skills to do it either. So this will bring people together. It will give also jobs to local communities to get out and help their community to be better. But people will have work then too and learn new skills possibly. So I also want to say that I researched recently what is the best way to make energy. And what keeps coming up is solar panels. And now I know that there are like a lot of times these cheap solar panels you can buy at the stores currently, but then there's a higher quality of a higher quality of solar panel out there that you can get, that NASA uses or whatever, certain military places are using. And so it's time to make that available to the public too, or at least to the towns, and get those working. So what I did notice is we got a lot of circles now, and they're working great in different towns, and this is wonderful. So I'm going to recommend that the towns in those circles use the circle space for art displays to promote different local artists and their also what the town represents, whether it's a coal mining town or whether it's a automobile town or whether it's a farming town. Let's start putting a sculpture there. and promoting the arts and promoting the town and what it represents. We could also contemplate putting some solar panels there to hook up to your grid, where the solar panels could be, collecting sun power and giving it back to your people. So there are lots of things to do in the middle of the circles. A circle is not like a giant speed bump. You don't drive over it, you drive around it. And that way, there's no accidents and stuff like that. So I know that sometimes there are large loads of whatever being taken from one place to the other, and so, we have to make way for big trucks. And I noticed in some places they've made the road very narrow so that trucks really aren't welcome. So this is not acceptable either. We need to make sure that the circles work the way that they should. They should be for all vehicles. There are ways to make them safe for all vehicles, and a way to use them for a productive thing like a sculpture. So yeah. Anyway, I like all the circles. It keeps traffic moving. There's no question as to who goes next, and so then there's no accidents. I was recently almost in an accident, like 2 days ago, passing through a street. I had a stop sign, and the person across from me had a stop sign, but, I'm still not used to all these stop signs. So, the people coming at us from the other direction apparently didn't have a stop sign, but I didn't know that. And so this guy was coming up and he was slowing down, and the person coming at me from the other direction too was slowing down. So I was thinking, okay, everybody's going to be stopping, because I was used to 4-way stops now. And I pulled out to go straight, and suddenly the guy who I thought was stopping from my right-hand side, he apparently didn't have a stop sign. So he was coming into the intersection too. And we almost hit, but luckily we both stopped, because we both realized something's wrong here. And so then I backed up a little bit so he could finish and do what he wanted to do and go. And then I went forward. But the trick is that, people don't have time to read everything as they're coming up to intersections. And, if you get beyond the stop sign, you don't know what it says. So I know it was like the first stop sign, and I had maybe 6 or 7 streets that I could pass, and then finally a stop sign came. So I did stop. But then I thought it was my turn to go. And, I didn't realize it wasn't a 4-way stop. So, turn these things into circles. Send everybody in one direction, and then it's clear who gets to go. It's not a big deal. You don't need to make 2 lanes. You can just make 1, and everybody will work it out. So, you don't need to make it complicated. Just everybody goes in this direction, and on times where it's busier, then maybe it becomes a 2-lane circle, and on times where it's not so busy, then it's just a 1-lane circle. So, come on now. We can do better. These stop signs, it's, they're just dangerous. And then always stopping. That's also not good. So yeah, so these are things that I've been seeing, and I think the best thing to do is in the year 2026 to introduce these little community centers where people can go in and get help around their house, whether it's gardening, whether it's a roof on their house, or winterizing their place better, or insulating their place better, or maybe hooking up solar panels to their house, So, as you know, I want to also start doing apprenticeship work, get all the students into an apprenticeship program. And so this could be things that the apprentices are working on. I think it's a great idea, and I think it could help out a lot, bringing the community together. Then the other thing that I have in mind is pollution. So pollution still is a big problem, also from cars. And so that's another thing I want the mechanic apprentices to learn, is how to do certain things on vehicles to make them more fuel efficient, like turning them into hybrids, and then also reducing the amount of pollution. So what that will mean is certain cars won't be producing all this black smoke that they do. I know it's fun, but you know what's funner is having a home for your children in 100 years. That's even more fun than, polluting. What we can do maybe for you is like get you some signs to have there by you as you drive, like a fuck you sign, or a like thank you sign, and then you can just show those to people that you are driving by. Okay, that should solve the problem of you needing to express your opinion, and the rest of us needing to breathe and not have pollution in our food and our waters. Okay, so yes, we have some work to do there, and we're gonna make it. It'll be fine. So yeah, so these are things that I've noticed driving around. I would like to do something about all the sounds. We got some really loud vehicles, and I understand you're frustrated. I know. I'm frustrated too. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm running for president. Because I hear you, I hear me, and I'm tired of our voices not being heard. So, it's time to get rid of the Democrats and Republicans, because they are not working for us. They're working for the military-industrial complex, for all the rich companies and the rich people. And I have many friends who are quite wealthy, and they're very nice people. But there are a lot of people who are not wealthy. In fact, the majority of people are not so wealthy. And this is where we have a problem. So we need to, tilt the scale a little bit back to the little guy, and let's start thinking about the people and helping them to achieve and live a life in a reasonable lifestyle. All right? And what that means is the Democrats and Republicans, they are out for themselves. They are out for gridlock. They don't want change, and they're not really bringing change, actually. So if you want everything to stay the same, then vote Democrat and Republican 100%. Because if you do that and they win, nothing's going to change. But if you want change and you want something new, and you want to see the country succeed again and have a better place in the world, then you got to vote somebody else. And now I recommend me, of course. I think my platform is the one that is the best suited for this time of our country and our people. But of course, you should vote your conscience and vote for who you really want to vote for. So I do recommend me, of course, but you don't have to vote for me. But I think a vote for the Democrats and Republicans is a vote for staying unchanged, staying with corruption, and this is not acceptable. We are not a missionary for Jesus. We are not Zionists. We are not here to promote somebody's God over somebody else's God. And we are certainly not here to send our military troops to force that upon people. So if peace is something you're interested in, that's what I'm about. That's what I got in this whole thing for, was peace. And then I got in it also for women and the family and dads and children. And if these things are important to you, they're important to me, and that's why I'm doing this. But if they're important to you, then vote for me. I am the one with the biggest platform that's going to bring change that will absolutely help our families to be families again. So one thing I want to say that I discovered this week that the Democrats and Republicans are doing in our face and behind our backs. They are stealing money, your money and my money, our tax money, and maybe even money that we actually gave, but they're stealing it for their political parties to run their political party election, where they decide who in their party is going to represent them at their convention. So it's like so most parties at the convention decide who's going to represent the party at the general election. But for some reason, Democrats and Republicans feel comfortable not only taking money from the federal government to run their clubs, because political parties are just social clubs of people who have the same ideas. So they're not special. We are not run, technically we are not supposed to be run by political parties, but sadly currently we've been taken over by the Democrats and Republicans, and they are running our country. And this is not acceptable. They've made sure to keep everybody, all the other parties out, and this is not acceptable. But anyways, they feel comfortable taking millions of dollars from the federal government to run primaries for only their people in their party to go and vote, use our resources, so our computers, our employees, our government paper and pens and electronics and everything, spaces. We rent the space. The Democrats, Republicans feel comfortable running primaries for themselves only, with federal funds only for them. For their people to be able to vote and walk in the door and place a vote for who they think in their party is better than the other person in their party. This is unacceptable. I know at least one U.S. citizen who went to vote in their state in a primary, and because they were not in those parties, they were turned away. They could not vote in that state during the primary. But federal funds and probably state and local money was being used to run that primary, and yet a citizen whose taxes might have gone to help pay for that, he could not vote. What? This is so illegal, fraudulent, manipulative. And, they were using paper and pens, and they had to rent a space, and they had people there working. Government people working. I want my money back. I want my money back. This is not acceptable. Elections are for the people. They're not for the political parties, these social clubs. I'm sorry. You are out of order. You are under arrest. If I could arrest you, I would. Shame on you, Democrats and Republicans. You disgust me. How dare you? You do not turn U.S. citizens away. So, we need to stop the Democrats and the Republicans. As you heard just now, they have taken over our country secretly without us knowing. They've written laws to take over our country, and we let it happen. Well, it's now time to take back our country. I need any citizen who wanted to vote in the primary and was turned away to respond to this message. Put it in the comments. Say, yes, I tried to vote in my state of blah, 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 whichever state it is. You can also say the city, and they refused to let me vote. This is not acceptable because I am pretty sure that every single state has taken money from those federal fund grants to run their primary. And this is not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. Shame on you. So, yeah. I think what I'll do now is, not only that, but here I have this children's book that I started reading. It's called What is a Presidential Election? And it's also about just being elected, right? But I'm going to read a little bit from it for you. One thing I want to read is they say in a nice way, because they ask children to participate. Let's see. Come on. Okay. I guess actually what the question is, I'm not finding it yet, but let's see. What makes a great leader? What do you think is the most important qualities? Here, I found it. A president should have. What are the most important qualities? And they have a list of, you could write up to 10 qualities if you wanted. So, and it doesn't just have to be president. What do you think are most important qualities you want to see in a politician or a statesperson? I prefer to be called a stateswoman rather than a politician. I don't really see myself as a politician. Then I'm going to read chapter 9 and some other chapters in here. So this is this chapter 9 from this book is called Red, Blue, and Purple. Some states, such as New York and California, are called blue states. That's the color that represents the Democratic Party. They are called blue because the majority of the people in those states vote for the Democratic presidential candidate nearly all the time. But with the fraud that we now know about, is that true? That all those people are actually allowed to be voting? And currently, California has decided not to ask for IDs. So, I don't know. Sounds a little nutty to me. Then other states such as Tennessee and South Dakota tend to be won by Republicans. Those states are called red states, the color of the Republican Party. And some states are called purple states because it's difficult to predict which party will win there. Many people will vote Republican, red, and many will vote blue, and blue and red make purple. Unpredictable purple states are known as swing states. These states can swing an election either way. This is why candidates will spend much of their time campaigning in swing states. Because winning there may win them the presidency. Historically, some swing states are Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Colorado. So, I mean, is that, are you, the public, so easily swayed that just because a president shows up in your state and gives a speech that will change your view? I mean, it could be, but isn't it really about you, the public, rather than about the personality? You know, isn't it better if someone is going around and seeing the state and seeing what needs to be done, rather than coming there and telling you how things are? I don't know. So, anyway, again, if you want to respond to this town hall and tell me what you think needs to be done in your state, you're welcome to do that. So then the next chapter is chapter 10, which is homestretch. That's where we are. Have you ever watched the Olympic runners or NASCAR race? You can usually see who is in the lead moment by moment. In a political race, this isn't possible. So campaigns rely on polls. Surveys of voters, polls are taken by newspapers, TV stations, news associations, universities, private polling companies such as Gallup. Of course, there is no way to ask all Americans whom they are voting for. So the poll asks a randomly selected group of people who they would vote for if the election were held that day. Okay, so all Americans, that's the first part that's wrong in this chapter. So you're talking about Mexicans, because Mexicans are also American, and you're talking about Canadians, because they're also American, and you're talking about people from Venezuela, they're also Americans, right? So you mean U.S. citizens. You should ask the U.S. citizens. But actually, it's none of your business who we vote for. So this whole polling thing is kind of stupid. And, people might be lying anyways, because they don't want you to know who they're voting for. And it actually is none of your business. So if you can ask a handful of people, but who knows what's really going to happen, right? Ideally, the results of a small group reflect the much larger group of U.S. voters. So now you put the words in correctly, U.S. voters. The 2020 election polls were much more accurate in showing how close the race was. Polls were often an indication of results, but the only ones that matter are citizens' votes on election day. And so in October of 2020, polls showed how close the race leading up to the election day was, where on this apparent week or whatever, they showed that Biden had 49% and Trump only 44%. Then there was 4% neither or other, and 2% not sure. So, but I don't think it's very accurate at all. I mean, yeah, it's just not accurate. Big upsets as well as very close calls have happened before. On November 2nd, 1948, it seemed almost certain that a man named Thomas Dewey was going to beat the current president, Harry S. Truman. Dewey was leading in almost every poll. So much so that on the morning of November 3rd, the Chicago Daily Tribune printed the front page headline, "Dewey defeats Truman." Have you ever heard of President Dewey? Probably not. Well, that's because he actually lost. A famous photo of Truman was taken a few days after the election, shows him with a copy of that newspaper high in the air with a big smile. In 1960, race between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, it was close that NBC News did not say, it was so close that NBC News did not say that Kennedy had won until 7 a.m. the next morning. The media, as we know, also with the last election and the election before that, they seem to think they know what's going on, and they seem to think that they have a right to make the announcements. But, truthfully, the real election results come on January 6th, when the votes are read in front of Congress. That's when more or less really the election is called. So media has no business saying anything, even if it's very clear. Things can change. There's a reason why we have all these stopgaps, where if something goes wrong, if things are discovered that are illegal that somebody did, the Electoral College might want to vote for somebody else. And so, it's not a guarantee until early January, whenever the date is this year, or next year, I should say, whenever the Senate and the House are meeting to tally the votes from the Electoral College. That's when we'll know. So, the media needs to slow down. The Democrats and Republicans need to learn that it's a free country, and that they're not the only political parties out there, and that they have to stop stealing money and resources from our government. And, yeah. So, folks, this is what the media has to learn. So, some of the most exciting parts of the presidential race are the debates. Are they really? I mean, I will be in a debate at the end of this month, and it should be quite good and interesting. I don't know who all is going to be in it. It's not finalized yet, but we have a good crew so far. And I think really what's best is when things actually get accomplished. That's the exciting part about the presidential race. I think we spend too much time on it, and then there's a lot of hate put into the media and the press about the other parties and us against them, and it's not good. It divides the country, and then a lot of things don't move forward, like anything at the border, because it's an election year. So apparently, as I told you in a previous town hall, that I wrote to our president, and he returned my email and said that the Democrats and Republicans came up with a solution for the border, but they're not passing it in Congress because it's an election year. And I guess they don't want to make a decision on something that then the next people will have to deal with. What a stupid concept. I mean, if that's really what an election year does, I mean, it halts everything, then it's stupid what we're doing. So, I mean, as you know anyways, we need to reorganize our government. So as soon as I get into office, I'm going to call for a constitutional convention, because we need to change our government structure. We need to put the power back in the people's hands. We need to have regular, constant elections going on and decide things and get things accomplished. Because waiting for the the election to be over, because it ends in November, but people don't go into office until January. And then things, new people need until February to get up to speed, and then it's probably already a holiday, right? So, folks, we have so much waste. It starts with manpower waste, and then it just continues. So we got to stop all this. This is just not acceptable. Not for my U.S. people. No. It's a joke. It's a joke. Okay. So the debates. Yeah, I don't know if the debate will really bring anything extra out of the ordinary. One thing we do need to talk is a lot of taboo topics. We need acceptance. All of us. We all need to learn to accept each other. Because that's not what we're doing. So a constitutional convention is needed. We need to rewrite our constitution, bring it up to date, and get rid of the House of Representatives. We don't really need them. So this might be the last time you'll ever have to vote for a House of Representatives group, because it's enough now. There are usually 3 in the general election campaign. These televised debates are way more exciting than all the early primary election debates, because one of the people on stage will actually become president. The debates are conducted by one or more moderators who will ask questions covering different topics. A candidate's answer shows how they would govern and how well the candidate thinks under pressure. Often the candidate gets into heated arguments. It is the moderator's job to make sure each candidate keeps to the rules agreed and time allotted to speak. A toss of the coin decides who gets the first question. The candidate will have a set amount of time to answer. Their opponent will then have to set an amount of time to respond. This is called a rebuttal. Occasionally, a candidate will get to make a rebuttal to their opponent's rebuttal, etc. Candidates will sometimes try to avoid answering a difficult question. They may change the subject or attack their opponent rather than say something the audience might not like. At the end of the debate, each candidate will make a short closing statement repeating why they are the best person for the president. In recent years, the 2 vice presidential candidates have also met for one nationally televised debate. Another form of debate is a town hall where members of the audience ask the candidates questions. The questions also come from the people via social platforms like Facebook and Twitter. During a town hall debate, the candidates move around the room. I can address somebody. Excuse me. In the audience directly. It is also interesting to watch the body language of the candidates. Do they seem confident and friendly and nervous? Then, during one of the debates, write down the names of the 2 candidates. Keep a tally of how many times each tries to avoid answering a question. So this is one of the things that they ask you to do in this children's book on the presidential campaign. Of course, they say only 2 candidates, Of course, it's only Democrat and Republican candidates because the media doesn't, acknowledge that there are others. So I guess that federal money that the states take, they use that to buy airtime with the debates and other things. So again, not with my tax money. I don't want my money going towards the Democrats and the Republicans ruining our country for another 4 years. it's enough now. There are only about 75 days between Election Day and Inauguration Day. This period of time is called the presidential transition. One of the most important concepts in the democracy like the United States is called the peaceful transition of power. This transition has been in place since the first presidential transition from George Washington to John Adams in 1797. Peaceful transition means handing over the government without violence or obstruction from one administration to the next. In 2020, Joe Biden received 306 electoral votes. Donald Trump got 232. Trump wrongly declared that he had won and did not concede or begin planning a peaceful transition. Well, I will say this about that. Like I said, the actual end of the election is not on Election Day. The end of the election is at the beginning of January. So actually that peaceful transition period is much shorter. The only reason why it worked so well with George Washington was because he was determined not to run for office at all after that year. So, and they probably didn't have computers making fraudulent votes, and they didn't have the system that we have today making fraudulent and manipulating votes and fake names, and they didn't probably have people who were, foreigners voting. So it's a whole different ballgame today. And I actually know for a fact there was a lot of fraud in the system in the 2020 election, that maybe Joe Biden actually did not win. And so Donald Trump was right to try to say, hey, something's wrong here. The fact that no one listened to even a president tells you a lot. So, like I said, folks, we are not the United States of the Democrats and Republicans. We are the United States of America, and we are run by the people, not by the Democrats and Republicans. But they have taken over our country, and they're not giving it back. So we have to take it back. You need to vote them out. Vote for anyone other than a Democrat and Republican. Anyone. I don't care who. Just vote them out. So on January 6th, just 14 days before Inauguration Day, so that is actually when that election, the final part of that election happened. There was even an opportunity, if there was real fraud discovered and could have been acted on, there was still an opportunity right up to like 3 days before Inauguration Day where things could have changed. But it didn't happen. So on January 6, 2021, just 14 days before Inauguration Day, thousands of Trump supporters gathered in Washington, D.C. at his urging to rally to his support. Following the rally, thousands of rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to stop the counting of the electoral votes that would officially certify Biden's election as president. The building was damaged. The people, including law enforcement officers who were defending the Capitol, were injured. Some rioters and officers died. Vice President Mike Pence, however, was able to certify the election so that the results stood. Criminal charges were brought against the former president for his involvement in this and other plans to change the election results. Trump continued to claim that he had done nothing wrong. As always, the people will get the final say with their votes. So, truthfully, in January is when the end of the election is. So the media can write whatever they want, and they should, I guess. They can make guesses as good as the rest of us. But the final count is at the beginning of January, and that's when we will really know who will be president. So we don't have 75 days. We have 14 days, usually. That's it, folks. 14 days. Sometimes it might be 15, sometimes 16, but that's probably maximum. But, yeah, I think we might want to rethink this thing. I do know that some states have people already campaigning. Back in 23, I know I was sort of encouraged to kick off my campaign already, a summer ago. So I've been campaigning technically over a year, but I kicked it off and then I said, well, I'm not campaigning. I just can't do this now. No, I'm not doing this, because we cannot go for 3 years spending time for 3 years trying to run for an office. I mean, this is just ridiculous. So anyway, yeah. We just we gotta change our election process just a little bit, But once I'm in office, if you vote me in, I have some ideas that I need to present to you, the public, the U.S. people, and then we will determine how to go forward together. All right. So that's about it for now. If you want to read more about what Random House is telling us is the process, please have a look. What is a presidential election? Yeah, well, it's pretty crazy. But don't listen to everything that they say, because there's things like the Green Party, the Libertarians. There's, I don't know. There's just Reform Party. There's all sorts of parties out there. The Socialist Party, too. And then there's people like me who are not in a party at all. My platform just doesn't fit anywhere. So I'm a write-in candidate. I'm not in a party whatsoever. And I do take a little bit probably from all the parties, actually. So anyway, but that's enough for now. Thanks for stopping by. I know this was a long and exhausting town hall. And I just want to say thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing, go to my website, Susan4USA.com. That's Susan, the number 4USA.com. And don't forget, sometimes where they have just a blank space on your ballot like that, and sometimes they put a little circle there, so then you got to color that in. This is if you want to vote for me. And then sometimes they just say write in president, and they have a line. So then you would write in, of course, my name, Susan Buchser, like that. And sometimes they even have a place for the vice president. Write in vice president. And then there, if you're voting for me, if you have that space, you can put in any vice president that you know of, or you can also put in anyone who is not running for office. Because if they're running for office, or at any time this year ran for office, they're not eligible, unless they were running as a vice president, they're not eligible to be my vice president. So, you could write in possibly your name or your best friend's name or something like that. or people that I know. I recommend writing down people that I'm already familiar with. You can find out who I'm friends with here on Facebook or YouTube or something like that. Just remember that that they have to be a U.S. citizen, that they have to be 35 years of age or older, and they have to have lived 14 years inside the United States. They have to be actually a natural-born U.S. citizen, so they have to be born from an American citizen, not a naturalized U.S. citizen. Okay, so that's how it works for write-ins. And sometimes they do write-ins electronically. You do it right on the computer. I think might be in Philadelphia and maybe some other big cities. So there, under President, you click on the write-in category, and then you do whatever, follow the instructions. Okay? All right. So, again, check me out also. I'm most active here on Facebook, so this is the right place. You found me. I'm also on YouTube. So I have one YouTube channel where I have like over 400 videos from my first campaign, from my campaign when I was running for Congress, and now from this campaign. So though you can look at all of those or none of those, whatever, but they're there. That's the right one to go to. I am on other YouTube channels too, but those are the best ones. And then I'm also on Twitter, or X. It's now X, formerly known as Twitter. And technically I have an Instagram page that I used to have connected to my Facebook page, but I don't have it connected right now, so that's sort of information from when I was running for Congress and before my phones were taken by the Secret Service or FBI or CIA or whoever took them. So anyway, this is where we are, and that's how you can find out more about me. Yeah, but this is the best place. I put most of my stuff right here on this Facebook page. So you found the best way to find me, to find information. Okay. So that's my news. Thanks for stopping by. I wish you a good time until Wednesday, and we'll talk then. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them here in the comments. And if you have anything that you want me to know, put them here in the comments, okay? So, thanks for stopping by. I wish you a good day. It's Susan4USA.com. That's Susan the number 4, USA.com. That's the website. All right. Goodbye. Actually, tomorrow, I just realized tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day. So I will be putting out a small video tomorrow about that. But otherwise, yes. So enjoy your long weekend. Okay. Thanks.